Admiral Yuna stood at the window of the observation deck. She watched the stars move slowly past the glass. Her hands were behind her back. Her face showed nothing, but inside her chest, something was breaking into 1,000 pieces. The news had come 3 hours ago. Titan colony was gone. 3 million humans were dead. Her husband, her 2 daughters, her elderly mother. All of them had lived on Titan. All of them were now dust floating in the cold darkness of space. The Velkari had not even warned them. They had simply appeared in orbit and fired their weapons. The colony shields had lasted 4 minutes. Then everything burned. Yuna closed her eyes. She could still see her youngest daughter's face. Little Su-min had sent her a video message just 2 days ago. She had been excited about her school project. She had been learning about Earth's oceans. She had wanted to visit Earth someday and see real water. Now she would never see anything again. A door opened behind Yuna. She did not turn around. She knew who it was by the sound of the footsteps. Commander Taeho walked up and stood beside her. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served with Yuna for 20 years. He had never seen her cry. He did not expect to see it now. "The council has responded," Taeho said quietly. "What did they say?" "They expressed regret. They called it an unfortunate incident. They asked both sides to show restraint." Yuna's jaw tightened. "Restraint." "Yes, Admiral, restraint. For 300 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. For 300 years, they had followed every rule. They had paid every tax. They had sent their young people to die in wars that were not their own. They had given their resources, their technology, their labor. And what had they received in return? Nothing but contempt. The other races looked at humans like they were animals. They called humans primitive. They called them violent. They called them dangerous. But when there was a war to fight, they always asked for human soldiers. When there was a dangerous planet to explore, they always sent human crews. When there was dirty work to do, humans were always chosen. And when humans died, no one cared. Yuna remembered the first time she had attended a council meeting. She had been young then, full of hope and pride. She had believed that humanity could earn respect through hard work and patience. The Velkari ambassador had laughed at her. He had called her a cute little predator and asked if she wanted a treat. The other ambassadors had laughed too. Even the council chairman had smiled. That was 50 years ago. Nothing had changed since then. "How many attacks have there been?" Yuna asked. Taeho pulled out a small device and looked at the numbers. "In the last 100 years, alien forces have attacked human colonies 47 times. Total dead, approximately 12 million. Number of times the council took action? 0. And how many times have we attacked them?" "Never, Admiral. Not once." Yuna nodded slowly. "We kept hoping things would change. We kept believing that if we were patient enough, kind enough, peaceful enough, they would accept us. We were wrong," Taeho said. "Yes, we were wrong." Yuna finally turned away from the window. Her eyes were dry, but there was something new in them. Something cold and hard like steel. "Contact United Earth Command," she said. "Tell them I am invoking Protocol Omega." Taeho's face went pale. "Admiral, are you certain? Protocol Omega means—" "I know what it means, Commander. Do it." Protocol Omega was humanity's darkest secret. For 200 years, while they smiled at the council and followed every rule, humans had been preparing. They had built weapons in hidden bases. They had trained soldiers in secret facilities. They had developed technology that they never showed to anyone. The galaxy thought humans were weak. They thought humans had no real military power. They thought humans were just useful workers and disposable soldiers. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Taeho nodded and left to send the message. Yuna turned back to the window. Somewhere out there, in the direction of the Velkari Empire, her family's ashes were floating through space. She made a silent promise to them. 1 hour later, Yuna stood in the command center of the human flagship, the Iron Will. Around her, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. The room was quiet except for the hum of machines and the soft beeping of computers. On the main screen, The face of Fleet Admiral Dae Sung appeared. He was an old man with white hair and scars on his face. He had fought in more battles than anyone could count. He had been waiting for this day for a very long time. "Admiral Yuna," Dae Sung said, "I received your message. Protocol Omega has been confirmed by Earth Command. All hidden fleets are being activated. All secret weapons are being prepared." "How long until we are ready?" Yuna asked. 12 hours. Maybe less. Make it less." Dae Sung smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a wolf that had finally been let off its chain. "The Valkyrie Emperor is already sending messages to the Council," Dae Sung said. "He is telling them that the attack on Titan was justified. He says we were secretly building weapons there." "Were we?" "No. Titan was just a mining colony. Families. Workers. Children." Yuna felt her heart squeeze tight. "And the Council believes him?" "The Council does not care what is true. They only care about keeping power. The Valkyrie are strong. Humans are weak. That is all that matters to them. Then we will show them something different." All across human space, things began to move. Ships that had been hidden for centuries came out of their secret bases. Soldiers who had trained their whole lives for a war that might never come finally received their orders. Factories that had been disguised as civilian buildings began to produce weapons at full speed. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. On a small transport ship heading toward Earth, a young officer named Jinwoo listened to the news. He heard about Titan. He heard about the Council's response. He felt anger burning in his chest like fire. His best friend had lived on Titan. They had grown up together. They had joined the military together. His friend had left the service last year to marry his girlfriend and start a family. Now he was dead. His wife was dead. Their unborn child was dead. Jinwoo looked at his hands. They were shaking, but not with fear. With rage. When his commanding officer called him and told him about Protocol Omega, Jinwoo did not hesitate. He volunteered immediately. He did not care about the danger. He did not care if he lived or died. He only cared about one thing: making the Valkyrie pay. And in the darkness of space, humanity's secret fleets began to move toward their targets. The countdown had begun. In 12 hours, the galaxy would change forever. The Six-Day War was about to begin. The first Valkyrie outpost to fall was Station Korath 7. It was a military base on the edge of their empire. 3,000 soldiers were stationed there. They had the best weapons and the strongest shields in the sector. They died in 7 minutes. Fleet Admiral Dae Sung watched from the bridge of his flagship as human ships tore through the station's defenses. The Valkyrie had not even had time to send a distress signal. One moment they were going about their normal duties. The next moment, human weapons were cutting through their shields like paper. "Station destroyed," reported Captain Hana from her position at the tactical console. She was a young woman with short black hair and calm eyes. She had been trained for this moment since she was a child. "No survivors detected." Dae Sung nodded. He felt nothing. The Valkyrie had killed 3 million humans on Titan. They had laughed and celebrated. They had called it a great victory. Now they would learn what a great victory really looked like. "Move to the next target," Dae Sung ordered. "Maintain communication. Silence. Do not stop for anything." Across the galaxy, 11 other human fleets were doing the same thing. In the first hour of Day 1, 12 Valkyrie outposts were destroyed. By the end of Day 1, that number had risen to 43. The Valkyrie Emperor received the news in his throne room. At first, he did not believe it. He ordered his generals to check the reports again. There had to be a mistake. Humans did not have this kind of power. Humans were weak and primitive. But the reports kept coming. Station after station was going dark. Fleet after fleet was being destroyed. Human ships were everywhere at once, appearing from nowhere and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. "This is impossible," the Emperor said. His voice was shaking. "Where did they get these weapons? Where did they hide these ships?" His advisors had no answers. For 200 years, they had spied on humanity. They had watched their shipyards. They had counted their weapons. They had measured their military strength and found it small and pathetic. They had missed everything. The secret bases had been hidden inside asteroids, buried under moons, disguised as civilian facilities. The weapons had been developed in laboratories that did not exist on any map. The ships had been built piece by piece over generations, assembled in places no alien eye had ever seen. Humanity had been patient. Humanity had been careful. And now humanity was angry. On the human flagship Iron Will, Admiral Yuna received updates every few minutes. Each update brought news of another victory. She should have felt satisfaction. Instead, she felt empty. Her family was still dead. No amount of destroyed stations would bring them back. Commander Teho approached her carefully. "Admiral, we have a message from the Galactic Council. They are demanding that we stop our attack immediately." "Demanding?" "Yes, Admiral. They say our actions are illegal and unprovoked." Yuna laughed. It was a bitter, cold sound. Unprovoked. 3 million dead on Titan. 12 million dead over the past century. Centuries of insults and abuse. And they call this unprovoked. What should I tell them? Tell them nothing. We are done talking. Day 1 ended with the Velkari in shock and the galaxy in terror. But Day 2 would be even worse. The thing that made humans truly dangerous was not their weapons or their ships. It was their ability to keep fighting when other species would have stopped. Humans could function without sleep for days. They could push through pain and exhaustion. They could rotate their crews in shifts, keeping their ships operating at full power while their enemies grew tired. The Velkari needed 8 hours of sleep every cycle. Their bodies simply shut down without it. On Day 2, the human fleets did not give them a single moment of rest. Captain Hana led the assault on the Velkari weapons factory at Tauren Prime. Her ship, the Silent Thunder, was one of the fastest in the human fleet. She had been awake for 36 hours. Her eyes were red and her muscles ached, but her mind was clear and her hands were steady. "Enemy fleet detected," her navigator reported. 42 ships. They're forming a defensive line. Hana studied the enemy formation. The Velkari commander was good. He had positioned his ships to cover all approaches. He was trying to protect the factory behind him, but he had made one mistake. He thought humans would fight the way other species fought. Carefully, cautiously, always protecting their own ships. Humans did not fight that way. "All ships, prepare for Delta 7 maneuver," Hana ordered. Her crew did not hesitate. They had trained for this. Delta 7 was a tactic that no other species would ever use. It required flying directly into enemy fire, accepting damage, and trusting your shields and armor to hold long enough to reach the target. It was, by any reasonable measure, insane. But humans were not reasonable. Not anymore. The Silent Thunder and its companion ships accelerated straight toward the Velkari line. Enemy weapons fire filled the space around them. Shields flared and flickered. Metal groaned and bent. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hana did not slow down. She did not turn away. She flew her ship directly through the enemy formation, firing at point-blank range. The Velkari commander could not believe what he was seeing. No species did this. No species accepted this level of damage willingly. It was suicide. But the human ships kept coming. And when they emerged on the other side of the Velkari line, they turned around and did it again. In 20 minutes, the battle was over. 38 Velkari ships were destroyed. The human fleet had lost 4 ships. But they had won. "Factory defenses are down," the tactical officer reported. "We have a clear shot." Hana looked at the factory on her screen. Inside, thousands of Velkari workers were building the weapons that had killed humans for centuries. She thought about giving them a chance to surrender. She thought about being merciful. Then she thought about Titan. About 3 million people who had never been given any chance at all. "Fire everything," she ordered. The factory burned. The workers inside never even knew what hit them. Across the Empire, the pattern repeated. Human fleets struck and moved, never staying in one place, never giving the Velkari time to organize a defense. Every time the enemy thought they knew where the humans were, the humans had already moved somewhere else. On the Council homeworld, The ambassadors were in panic. They had never seen anything like this. The Velkari were one of the strongest species in the galaxy. They had the third largest military. They had conquered dozens of worlds, and humans were destroying them. "We must intervene," said the Korlath ambassador. "We must send our fleets to stop the humans." "And then what?" asked the Mindari ambassador. "Fight them ourselves? Did you see what they did to Station Korath 7? Did you see the reports from Tauran Prime? They are just humans. They cannot fight the entire galaxy." "Are you certain of that?" No one answered, because no one was certain of anything anymore. As Day 2 came to an end, Fleet Admiral Day Sung received a report from all human fleets. Total enemy installations destroyed: 117. Total enemy ships destroyed: over 300. Human losses: 22 ships. The numbers were incredible. The numbers were terrifying, and this was only the beginning. Day Sung looked at the star map on his screen. The Velkari Empire was huge, but it was already burning. In 4 more days, it would be ashes. He allowed himself a small smile. For the first time in 300 years, humanity was not the victim. Humanity was not begging for help. Humanity was not asking for mercy. Humanity was the storm. And the storm had just begun. By the morning of Day 3, the Velkari Emperor understood that his empire was dying. Half of his military bases were gone. His fleet was scattered and confused. His generals were sending panicked messages that went unanswered. He sat alone in his throne room, staring at the reports on his screen. The numbers did not make sense. Humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to be easy to control. That was what everyone had always believed. Everyone had been wrong. The Emperor's hands were shaking as he contacted the Galactic Council. His voice, once proud and commanding, was now thin and desperate. "You must help us," he begged. "The humans have gone insane. They are destroying everything. You must send your fleets. You must stop them." The council chairman, an ancient Korlath with pale blue skin, looked at the Emperor with cold eyes. "You attacked Titan without council approval. You killed 3 million humans. You created this situation. They were just humans. Since when does killing humans matter?" The council chamber went silent. Every ambassador, every official, every aide looked at each other with uncomfortable expressions, because they all knew the answer. Killing humans had never mattered before. Humans had always been disposable. That was how the galaxy had always worked. But now the galaxy was learning a terrible lesson. "We cannot help you," the chairman said finally. "Our fleets are not strong enough. No fleet is strong enough. You must surrender to the humans and pray they accept." The communication ended. The Emperor stared at the blank screen for a long time. Then, he threw his crown against the wall and screamed. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Hana was leading her fleet toward the Velkari homeworld. She had not slept in 60 hours. Her body was running on stimulants and pure determination. Her crew was the same. They pushed themselves beyond any limit that made sense. But humans had never been good at staying within limits. "Enemy defensive fleet ahead," her navigator reported. 200 ships. They're blocking the approach to the homeworld. 200 ships. It was the largest Velkari force remaining. They had pulled together everything they had left for one final defense. Hana studied the formation. The enemy commander had learned from previous battles. He had positioned his ships in multiple layers, with the strongest vessels in front and support ships behind. It was a good strategy. Against any other enemy, it might have worked. "Contact Admiral Daesung," Hana ordered. "Tell him we need authorization for Operation Thunderfall." Her communications officer sent the message. The response came back in less than a minute. "Authorization granted," the officer reported. "The Admiral says..." "He says good hunting, Captain," Hana smiled. It was not a kind smile. Operation Thunderfall was something humans had never used before. It was something they had hoped they would never need to use. But hope had died on Titan, along with 3 million innocent people. "All ships, prepare jump drives for microjump," Hana ordered. Coordinates are being transmitted now. We jump in 60 seconds. Her crew worked quickly and efficiently. Around her, the other ships in her fleet were doing the same. The plan was simple but insane. They were going to jump their ships directly into the middle of the enemy formation. Jump drives were not supposed to work that way. The mathematical calculations required for such a short, precise jump were incredibly difficult. The margin for error was almost zero. If anything went wrong, their ships would be destroyed instantly. But human mathematicians had spent 200 years solving that problem. And human pilots had spent their lives training for this moment. Jump in 10 seconds, the navigator said. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump. The universe twisted and bent. For a fraction of a second, Hana felt like her body was being pulled in every direction at once. Then, reality snapped back into place. Her ship was now in the exact center of the Valkyrie formation. The enemy had no time to react. Human ships appeared all around them, firing weapons at point-blank range. The Valkyrie defensive formation, so carefully arranged, was suddenly useless. Their ships were shooting each other as much as they were shooting humans. Target the command ship, Hana ordered. Take out their leader. The silent thunder dove toward the largest Valkyrie vessel. Enemy fire scored across her shields. But she did not slow down. She had seen what the Valkyrie did to defenseless colonies. She had watched the recordings from Titan. She had seen children burning. There would be no mercy today. The Valkyrie command ship tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to go. Human ships were everywhere. Hana's weapons tore through its shields and ripped into its hull. The ship broke apart in a flash of light and fire. With their command ship gone, the remaining Valkyrie vessels fell into chaos. Some tried to fight. Some tried to run. None of them succeeded. In 45 minutes, the battle was over. 187 Valkyrie ships were destroyed. Human losses, 31 ships. The path to the Valkyrie homeworld was now open. On day 4, the human siege began. Fleet Admiral Dae Sung positioned his ships in orbit around the Valkyrie homeworld. Billions of Valkyrie looked up at the sky and saw human warships blocking out the stars. For the first time in their history, the Valkyrie knew what it felt like to be helpless. The Council sent message after message, begging the humans to negotiate. Other alien species offered to mediate. Ambassadors from a dozen worlds traveled to speak with Admiral Yuna. She refused to see any of them. Commander Taeho watched as another diplomatic ship was turned away. Admiral, perhaps we should at least hear what they have to say. I have heard what they have to say for 300 years, Yuna replied. They say, be patient. They say, follow the rules. They say everything will be better someday. And while we waited, our people died. This is different. They are afraid now. Yes. They are afraid. That is good. Fear is the only thing they understand. Down on the Valkyrie homeworld, panic was spreading. The planetary shields were strong, but everyone knew they would not last forever. Food supplies were being rationed. The power grid was failing as orbital stations were destroyed. In the Emperor's palace, military commanders argued about what to do. Some wanted to fight to the last soldier. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Some wanted to try one final desperate attack. The Emperor listened to them all and said nothing. He was remembering something that had happened 50 years ago. A young human admiral had come to the council. She had spoken with passion about peace and cooperation. She had believed that different species could live together in harmony. He had laughed at her. He had called her a cute little predator. Now that woman was in orbit above his world with enough firepower to turn his planet into ash. And he finally understood something that he should have understood long ago. Humans were not cute. Humans were not little. And when you pushed them too far, when you hurt them too deeply, they became the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. As Day 4 ended, the Valkyrie homeworld remained under siege. No ships could enter or leave. Communications with the rest of the Empire were cut. The population was alone and afraid. And somewhere in orbit, Admiral Yuna looked down at the planet and thought about her daughters. She thought about her husband. She thought about her mother. Tomorrow, she would give the Velkari one chance to surrender, and if they refused, there would be no more chances. Day 5 began with a message. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of the Iron Will and addressed the Velkari homeworld. Her face appeared on every screen, in every home, in every building, across the entire planet. Billions of Velkari stopped what they were doing and listened. People of the Velkari Empire, Yuna said. Her voice was calm and cold. 5 days ago, your military destroyed our colony on Titan. 3 million humans died. Men, women, children. None of them were soldiers. None of them had weapons. They were just people trying to live their lives. She paused. On the planet below, no one moved. For 300 years, humanity has suffered under your contempt. You called us animals. You used us as slaves and soldiers. You killed us whenever it suited you. And when we asked the galaxy for help, everyone looked away. Another pause. The silence was heavy and terrible. Your emperor has 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. If he refuses, we will begin destroying your orbital stations one by one. After that, we will destroy your military bases on the surface. We will not stop until every weapon, every ship, and every soldier in your empire is gone. The message ended. The screen went dark. In the emperor's palace, chaos erupted. Advisors shouted at each other. Generals drew weapons and threatened to fight anyone who suggested surrender. The emperor's own guards began arguing about whether to protect him or arrest him. The emperor himself sat on his throne and watched it all with empty eyes. He had ruled for 200 years. He had conquered 12 worlds. He had been the most powerful being in his sector of the galaxy. Now he was nothing. Silence, he said softly. No one heard him. The shouting continued. Silence, he roared. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at him. The emperor stood slowly. His bones ached. His heart felt heavy in his chest. He looked at his generals, his advisors, the men who had served him for decades. We will surrender, he said. Your Majesty, no. We can still fight. We can. Fight what? Did you see the battle at the defensive line? Did you see what they did? Our 200 ships against their 60. We should have destroyed them easily. Instead, they appeared in our midst like ghosts and tore us apart. He walked to the window and looked up at the sky. He could see the human ships from here. Tiny dots of light that meant death. For centuries, we believed humans were weak because they showed us kindness. We thought their patience was cowardice. We thought their willingness to follow rules meant they were easy to control. He shook his head slowly. We were fools. They were not weak. They were simply waiting, preparing, and now, he turned back to face the room. Now they are showing us what they truly are. And we cannot win against that. No one can. 40 minutes later, the Emperor's surrender was broadcast to the galaxy. He offered complete and unconditional capitulation. He agreed to every human demand before they even made them. Admiral Yuna received the message on the bridge. Around her, officers were crying. Not from sadness, but from a strange mix of relief and grief. They had won. But winning did not bring back the dead. Commander Tejo approached her carefully. Admiral, the Emperor has surrendered. Should I transmit our acceptance? Not yet. Not yet? But, the Emperor surrendered. But the war criminals have not. Yuna turned to face him. Contact Lieutenant Jin Woo. Tell him that Operation Justice is authorized. Tejo's eyes widened. We're really going to do this? They killed 3 million of our people. Someone must answer for that. On the planet below, Lieutenant Jin Woo received his orders. He read them twice to make sure he understood. Then he gathered his team. Jin Woo's unit was special. They were the best soldiers humanity had ever produced. They had trained for years in secret facilities. They had learned to fight in any environment, against any enemy. They had been waiting their whole lives for a mission like this. Our targets are the war criminals responsible for Titan, Jin Woo told his team. Admiral Velthos, who commanded the fleet. General Korshin, who gave the order to fire. Minister Dranlock, who planned the attack, and 12 other high-ranking officials who approved the operation. He looked at each member of his team. Their faces were hard and determined. "We take them alive if possible. But if they resist, we are authorized to use deadly force." "Understood, sir," they said together. The human dropships descended through the Velkari atmosphere. The planetary shields had been lowered as part of the surrender. There was nothing to stop them. Jinwoo watched the ground approach through his window. Somewhere down there were the people who had murdered his best friend. His friend's wife, their unborn child. His hands tightened on his weapon. The dropships landed in the capital city. Velkari civilians ran away, screaming. Human soldiers moved through the streets with cold efficiency. They knew exactly where their targets were. They had studied the intel for months. Admiral Velthos was found hiding in his mansion. He had surrounded himself with guards, but the guards surrendered the moment they saw human soldiers. No one wanted to die for a man who had already lost everything. Velthos himself tried to run. He made it about 20 meters before Jinwoo caught him. "Please," Velthos begged. "I was just following orders. The Emperor made me do it. I didn't want to." "Shut up," Jinwoo said. He put restraints on the Admiral and dragged him outside. The alien was shaking with fear. Jinwoo felt nothing but disgust. General Korshin tried to fight. He had been a warrior his whole life, and he refused to surrender to what he still called inferior beings. He killed 2 human soldiers before Jinwoo put a bullet in his leg. "You should have just come quietly," Jinwoo said as he stood over the general. "You will never break us," Korshin hissed. "The Velkari are a proud people. We will rise again. We will. You will spend the rest of your life in a prison cell, answering for what you did to Titan." Jinwoo grabbed him roughly. "And every night, you will remember this moment. The moment when a human stood over you and you could do nothing." One by one, the war criminals were captured. Some surrendered peacefully. Some fought. Some tried to take their own lives. None of them escaped. By the end of day 5, all 15 targets were in human custody. They would be taken to Earth for trial. The entire galaxy would watch as they faced justice for their crimes. On the Iron Will, Admiral Yuna watched the reports come in. She saw the faces of the captured criminals. She saw Velthos, the man who had commanded the fleet that killed her family. She felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, not even grief, just emptiness. "It's done," Tejo said quietly. "We have them all." "Yes, we have them. How do you feel, Admiral?" Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I feel like I'm standing in a house that burned down long ago. We won the war, but I lost everything that mattered before it even started." She turned away from the screen. "Tell Fleet Admiral Daesung to begin the final phase. Tomorrow, this war ends. And then we see what kind of galaxy we've created." Day 6. The war ended not with a final battle, but with a document. Representatives from the Velkari Empire, shaking and defeated, signed the Treaty of Earth aboard the Iron Will. They agreed to everything humans demanded. They had no choice. The terms were severe. The Velkari would surrender all their warships. They would pay reparations to humanity for the next 100 years. They would hand over every military officer who had participated in attacks on human colonies, and they would formally apologize to every human family that had lost someone to Velkari aggression. It would take generations for them to recover. Some said they never would. Admiral Yuna watched the signing ceremony from a distance. She did not participate. She did not want to. The politicians could handle the paperwork. She had done her part. Beside her, Commander Tejo stood in silence. He had aged 10 years in 6 days. They all had. "The Galactic Council has requested to speak with you," Tejo said finally. "They want to discuss the future. The future." Yuna laughed softly. It was a tired sound. 6 days ago, they told us to show restraint. Now they want to discuss the future. They're afraid, Admiral. Everyone is afraid. Good. Fear is an excellent teacher. The council meeting took place the next day. Admiral Yuna traveled to the Council homeworld, aboard a diplomatic vessel. But she brought a fleet of warships with her. Not to threaten anyone. Just to remind them. The Council chamber was different from how Yuna remembered it. The last time she had been here, she was young and full of hope. The ambassadors had looked at her with contempt. They had laughed at her dreams of equality. No one was laughing now. She walked to the center of the chamber and looked around at the assembled representatives. Hundreds of species, thousands of officials, all staring at her with fear in their eyes, the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were terrified of one human woman. 300 years ago, humanity joined this council, Yuna began. Her voice echoed through the silent chamber. We came with open hands and open hearts. We believed in cooperation. We believed in peace. We believed that if we worked hard enough and followed the rules, we would earn your respect. She paused. No one spoke. Instead, you used us. You sent our soldiers to die in your wars. You took our resources. You treated us like animals. And when the Velkari murdered 3 million of our people, you told us to show restraint. The council chairman shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He opened his mouth to speak. But Yuna continued. For 6 days, humanity showed you what we are truly capable of. We destroyed one of the largest empires in the galaxy. We captured its leaders. We brought them to justice. And we did it with less than 1/10 of our actual military strength. A murmur ran through the chamber. Less than 1/10? That was impossible. That was terrifying. I want you to remember that, Yuna said. Remember what we can do. Remember what we chose not to do. Because despite everything you put us through, we did not destroy the Velkari people. We did not burn their cities. We did not kill their children. We only punished those who were guilty. She took a step forward. Several ambassadors flinched back. That is the difference between humanity and you. You believe power means the right to abuse others. We believe power means the responsibility to protect the innocent. You feared us because we are strong. You should have respected us because we are just. The chamber was completely silent. Yuna looked at each ambassador in turn. She saw their fear, their shame, their dawning understanding. From this day forward, things will be different. Humanity will no longer be treated as a lesser species. We will have equal voice in this council. We will have equal rights under galactic law. And if anyone ever attacks our people again, she let the silence stretch. You know what will happen. The council agreed to everything. They had no choice. Over the following weeks, new treaties were signed. New laws were passed. Humanity was officially recognized as a full and equal member of the galactic community. But more than laws had changed. The entire galaxy had learned a lesson they would never forget. On Earth, there were celebrations. People danced in the streets. They waved flags. They cried and laughed and held each other. For the first time in 3 centuries, they felt safe. They felt proud. They felt like they mattered. But not everyone celebrated. Lieutenant Jinwoo stood alone on a hillside overlooking the city. In his hand, he held a small photograph. It showed him and his best friend on the day they graduated from military academy. They were both smiling. They had their whole lives ahead of them. Now his friend was dead, and Jinwoo had helped win a war that should never have been necessary. Was it worth it? He asked the photograph. Did we do the right thing? The photograph did not answer. It never would. A few kilometers away, Admiral Yuna sat in her quarters. The celebrations were happening outside, but she had no desire to join them. Her room was dark and quiet. On her desk were 3 small hologram projectors. She activated them one by one. Her husband appeared first, then her older daughter, then little Suman, still excited about her school project, still dreaming of seeing Earth's oceans. I'm sorry, Yuna whispered to them. I couldn't save you. I couldn't protect you. All I could do was make sure it never happens again. The holograms smiled at her with frozen faces. They would never age. They would never change. They would be exactly this way forever. Yuna cried for the first time in 6 days. The war was over. Humanity had won. The galaxy would never be the same. But for those who had lost everything, victory meant nothing. There was no celebration. There was no joy. There was only the quiet emptiness of rooms that would never again be filled with the people they loved. That was the true cost of the 6-Day War. Not the ships destroyed, or the stations burned. Not the treaties signed, or the laws changed. The true cost was measured in the hearts that broke and would never fully heal. Years later, a memorial was built on Titan. 3 million names were carved into a wall of black stone. People came from all over the galaxy to see it. Even aliens came, to pay respect, and perhaps to remember the lesson they had learned. At the very center of the memorial, there was a single inscription. It was written in every language in the galaxy. It said, "They lived in peace. They died in innocence. They will never be forgotten." And because of them, the galaxy learned that humanity will no longer be silent. Never again. Admiral Yuna visited the memorial once. She stood before the wall and found the names of her family. She touched each name with her fingertips. Then she turned and walked away, leaving flowers at the base of the wall. She never returned. Some wounds, she knew, would never heal. Some losses could never be replaced. But she had made a promise to her family, and she had kept it. The galaxy would never forget what happened in those 6 days. And humanity would never again be the victim. Never again.